on Head to Head. This is Chris.
And this is Scott. How you guys doing?
Hello, Instagram. How's everybody going?
Yeah, man, we're going live on Instagram for the intro before our interview today.
Yeah, we got Mr. Adam Keys. He is a Army veteran and also a stand-up comedian. He's going to be joining us here in a few moments here to talk about his time in the Army, as well as some of his comics, comedy shows and things of that nature, how he got started with that. And again, it's always success after service, right?
Right. So I was watching some of his commentary today. He actually, I've always wanted to stand up on stage and be a joke.
Right.
Because I live every day as a joke, so I might as well stand up on stage and make other people enjoy it. But my point is, I want to know how you put I want to know how you put those words together and make that work. Because what I find funny now is not really funny later on.
Right.
You know, I live in the moment. So how do you put that together? So I have a couple questions for him on that aspect. But
well, he owns it.
He does own it.
He walks on stage
he
and he owns
this stuff.
It's fantastic, and it's neat, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he went from.
He was a U.S. Army soldier, right?
Yeah, he was in an engineer company.
Okay.
So he was deployed in Afghanistan in 2010, and we'll learn a little bit about his story and kind of his what happened to him over in Afghanistan, and then what led him ultimately to now being an improv comedian. Working in, I believe it's DC.
I want to know what his favorite beers and whiskey are too.
Well, we need
to get asked those questions.
Yeah, we're gonna have those conversations. We're gonna get.
And if he deadlifts, if he works out,
that's fantastic.
Because I want to know.
He did climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
So yeah, he's got to be doing something fitness wise.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Definitely.
So
how you been?
Man, I'm doing great, man. We've had last couple days here on Head to Head, man. We've had some great conversations with Matt Luna.
Yep.
And then obviously Miss Rachel Brightag yesterday.
Yeah,
and then,
thank you so much for coming on, Rachel and Matt. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's looking more and more promising every day here at Head to Head. Outside of that, brother, everybody's doing well. My son got the clear from the doctors. He doesn't have the flu, so we got that going for us. That's a win. I'll take that as a win.
That's a huge plus, man.
Yeah, I'll take that as a W.
My kiddo was up all night last night till 1:09, and she was back up at 5:16. She basically slept 4 hours. But as soon as this morning came, turned the light on, she was out.
She's ready to.
Me and the missus got up, turned the light on,
it's time to
she
move.
fell asleep.
Because it's time to
She
go.
was done.
Oh, okay, well.
I was like, you kid.
You little girl.
Kid.
You little girl, you.
Oh, man. No, it's going to be good. Any big plans for the weekend coming up?
No, actually, I want to get the kiddos to the Franklin Institute.
Okay.
Yeah, they got a
the
nice
heart. Man, I got the heart down there. You run through. Remember that as a kid?
I do remember that, but they have the Vikings there.
Nice.
So they're giving you the history of the Vikings and all that stuff. You know,
because you're watching that show.
I'm watching that History Channel, by the way, Vikings. Catching up on that, Amazon Prime. Yeah. So,
well,
yourself?
Good, not much, man.
No.
But you guys get to catch us tomorrow on Instagram.
Hey, what's up?
On Instagram. And what we're going to do is on YouTube and every other platform, you're going to be meeting with Mr. Keys here, and we'll have that whole thing pushed out.
That is correct. So I think we're going to go live now with Mr. Adam Keys. Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing well, sir.
Yeah, we're hanging in there, brother. How's everything?
Everything's going pretty well. It's a beautiful day here in Maryland today.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. You're situated and located in the great state of Maryland.
Correct. Yeah, I live in Annapolis, Maryland now.
So one of my favorite football players, Vernon Davis, is from Maryland. So.
Well, I'm out. I already lost this conversation.
You're out.
Oh man, we're right in the football, brother. I didn't even have 2 seconds.
Well, I can pretty much take any conversation and steer it to football. I can mirror it to football anything you can. Like I can go into the fact. I can ask him, is he a Redskin fan?
Yeah,
that could be the first question.
Well,
the New York Jets would be the answer. That's for sure.
Wow, the Jets, man.
Yeah.
I'd have pegged you for a Giants fan before a Jets fan, but good, man.
Well, he's hopeful.
The Jets was my first live football game, so I stuck with those guys.
Okay.
That's outstanding.
Yep. That's all right. So what was that? When you were a kiddo, you went out there?
I was 13 or 14 with my dad the very first game.
So it's nostalgic for you. That's awesome, man.
Very awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, I appreciate you joining us here on Head to Head. A little bit of backstory about us is we're both veterans as well, and we aim to provide resources and obviously some entertainment aspects to our listeners. Currently, it looks like, as we've been tracking, over 20,000 listeners here in the last few weeks now. And that's
awesome.
That's really contributed to our brave men and women serving overseas in different countries like Germany, Canada, South Africa, Egypt. I'm probably missing some, Scott, but
yeah, just name them all. We're everywhere, bro.
Yeah, I mean they're getting pegged.
Hashtag World Police. Go ahead.
Yeah, World Police. So again, we definitely appreciate you taking time out. You served in the Army, is that correct?
I did. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
But yes, I was in the Army. Sorry, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Perfect. And when did you get into the service? And how did that come to be?
I joined the Army in September of 2008, and it sort of came to be. So I don't know if you read any of my bio at all, but I'm originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, in
Yes,
Bedford,
sir.
Nova Scotia, actually.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
And I moved to the great state of Pennsylvania when I was 13,
Mhm.
Okay.
and I was a freshman in high school. And when my senior year in high school came around is when 9/11 happened. So I'd always wanted to join the service. I didn't know which branch, but after 9/11, I said I'm joining the service.
What part of Pennsylvania were you from? Or were you
In the Lehigh Valley, in Whitehall,
Oh.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, Whitehall. Very
yeah,
good.
right in Whitehall area.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's
Not
good.
too far from Philadelphia there.
Yep, we're right over in Bucks County, so we're right next door
Awesome.
to you guys.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Small world.
You ever get back up here much, or you just staying down south where it's a little warmer?
I've been down here for several years now, including the hospital. It'll be 8 years total. But I do get back to Pennsylvania, to Whitehall, as often as I can.
Okay.
My family just sold their house, so we don't really have anything there anymore. But I go back to visit friends and stuff.
You can always drive by it.
Yeah,
It's a 3-hour road trip just to drive by it.
It's,
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I gotta go up there for a cheesesteak. They don't have them good like that down here in Maryland.
Well, they don't have them good up here either anymore. No, they don't exist anymore. Let's just call it like it is. I'm not going to pretend. They do not exist anymore up here. I don't know what happened.
That's unfortunate.
There's no more corner delis. There's no more real cheesesteak places.
or the bodegas.
The bodegas.
Yeah, there's unless you go into the heart of Philadelphia. So-
Yeah, I was a Geno's guy for sure.
Oh, of course.
Oh, very
Absolutely.
nice.
Pat says rats all day long. I'm just going to say it. I'm not mad.
Oh man, just under the bus he goes.
Yeah, that's it, man.
So Adam, so you served in 2008, and you were with the 20 Engineer Brigade, 27th Battalion, 618 Engineers Support Company.
Correct. Yep.
That's-
Yes. Nasty company.
Yeah, I was going to say the Nasty Company. How did they get the Nasty Company mantra?
Well, that started a while ago. Way back when we were actually our company was part of the 82nd Airborne Division, and we were one of the only engineer companies that wasn't jumping. This is 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone in the 82nd called us the Dirty Nasty Legs. So eventually we got our airborne status, and they said we are nasty. We're nasty paratroopers, and just stuck with that.
Okay, I like that. That's good
Yeah.
history.
That's fantastic. Now, how did when you were going to the recruiting and doing all that thing, what drove you to do anything in the engineer field with the Army?
I just want to know what made it pick the Army.
Yeah, well, I did. I shopped around to all the branches. Certainly, I did. But I went with the Army for a couple reasons, but mostly because I could get as a paratrooper airborne status in my contract right away.
Gotcha.
So
That
that's
makes
why
sense.
I did that.
Well, that's
yeah.
smart. See, he went in a little older than we did,
Right.
so he actually had the brains behind him to say, "Well, I'm going to get it in writing first."
Right.
But we were like, "What's that? A piece of paper? Yeah, give me that. I'll sign that."
Yeah. I'm making
Yeah.
something out of it.
Well, don't give me too much credit because I made a lot of mistakes, but that was the driving force for the Army, and I just got lucky to get to Fort Bragg where I wanted to be, and we could jump essentially all the time. So I was very
not
fortunate
true.
there.
That's not true. No, nobody wants to go to Fort Bragg.
I do. That was my place to be. That's for
Oh
sure.
man, no, North Carolina's nice, man, but that they need to do something out there with that base and that whole territory because there's really nothing going on, right?
Well, definitely, there's nothing really to do. That's for sure.
Right.
But
Training
jumping out of-
wise, yeah, but like
yeah,
life?
training wise, it's
No.
beautiful.
You get a
Yeah,
tat-
you got to go. You want to go to Raleigh or even Myrtle Beach or whatever, or any beach really.
Right.
But
you can get a
yeah.
tattoo and some STDs, and that's about it down there.
they're known for that. That's for sure.
There you go.
Boy, that's rough.
Hey, listen, man, we got 3 guys who're just gonna have a conversation, and this is the way it's gonna go. Because I've already heard this comedian. He's a comedian.
Comedian.
Oh, comedian.
Comedian.
So I've
Yeah.
heard that. That was pretty good, man. We and Chris were just talking about that. Not to jump guns all the way, but we were just talking about that a little bit. I'm going to pick your brain down the line
Sure.
about how you actually take something and make it funny on stage. Because me, I'm just funny in the mirror and for about 5 seconds of my life every couple hours.
Yeah. it is tough for sure. So I'm actually glad that I went to. I've always wanted to do it, of course, but I went to comedy school for 6 weeks, and they really helped me sort of hone that craft because I had a lot of jokes written down, and I was always good at a one-off at a party or something, but to put it into a flowing set was very, very difficult. So I needed some help there, and they were great with that.
Did you hear what he just said? He said he went to comedy school for 6 weeks. So he just said, my comedy school was longer than the Air Force basic training. That's what he said. That's all I got out of that.
And feel free to use that joke.
You can steal that.
You can use that joke.
That's all I got out of that. It's like, so you can actually go to.
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, you can actually go to comedy school longer than Air Force basic. Hey, go Air Force. We love you guys out there.
Yeah. We do love.
Don't
those
stand
guys
up.
for
No
sure.
need to get up though. Keep stay in your chairs. No need to get up, Air Force. Just stay seated. It's not an emergency. Chris has. I'm sorry. I jumped in on Chris's.
No, it's good because
Chris's ways here.
No, because I find it very interesting that any veteran, especially one that has a story like yours, takes that story and then and takes it and moves in a positive direction. So many times you see people with stories and it just does awful things to their psyche and then obviously other things happen, and then we're talking about problems with the VA and the VA hospital and lack of care and lack of benefits and just the whole.
Well, you said it earlier. He owns his shit.
Well, Adam seems to be the guy, especially with a lot of things that I've done in the last couple of weeks as far as researching your your history and things and how you when you were deployed in Afghanistan in 2010 and what happened there and stuff, and you can get into that if you'd like to or not, but just for me personally, I think it's very admirable to go through what you went through, sir, and then turn it into a positive note.
Well, thank you very much for that. That does mean a lot to me, and that is really the main goal here now because, as you're saying, I mean, I was in a really, really terrible time and a really dark time there for a while, but there was jokes there, and I was starting to crack them a little bit, and people don't know how to take it at first, but I was just seeing that it was sort of making things lighter for everybody else, especially my family, so I just sort of ran with that.
Yeah, you almost become a different person when you go through some tragedies, right? If you, like you're saying, if you take it and you actually make it your life. And it's a very hard thing to change, a very hard thing to become. But if you actually make it part of your life and you learn from it and you, like you said, you're making, I don't want to call it light of the situation, but you're making the best of the situation, right? And you're using it to become your own man, I want to say again, right? Because you do become a different person after something like that happens. So now again, very admirable.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no question. It's like you're sort of reborn, but just, I was 26 at the time, so I sort of knew how the world worked somewhat, but after that I had to relearn everything. So yeah, it was an eye-opening situation for sure.
So now you went through what you went through in Afghanistan in 2010, and then kind of pick up that story if you would. Like, obviously there was some medical issues and things that you had to overcome, and I'm sure you're still have barriers and things like that. But how did you switch that mind? I know your family. A lot of times people say, I'm gonna quit smoking for my family. I'm gonna quit smoking. Ultimately, you got to do it for yourself, though. And how did you? What am I working for?
He's gonna say medication. Well, go ahead, ask the question.
Well,
so I'm just making jokes. Like he's gonna say, how'd you mentally get through it?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Compartmentalize and just push through all the stuff that you had to go through after 2010.
Sure. Well, I mean, you guys will probably remember this as well. 2010 was late in 2009. At the time, Barack Obama had announced that we were going to have the big surge in Afghanistan. So I was part of those extra 30,000 they sent in 2010. And I made it. At the time, the Army was doing 12-month deployments. I made it just over halfway at 7 months. And, of course, we were hit with an IED. And, my company lost 5 guys on this deployment. And I'll quickly say their names if you guys don't mind.
No, go for it, please.
On 21 June 2010, we lost Specialist Scott Andrews. And then about 3 weeks later, on July 14, 2010, when I was injured, 4 other guys, unfortunately, did not make it. And their names were Sergeant Chase Stanley from California, Sergeant Zachary Fisher from Missouri, Specialist Matthew Johnson from Minnesota, and then my high school friend Jesse Reed from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So those 4 guys didn't make it. And as soon as I found that out, which was about a month after I woke up from a coma when I was back stateside, I just knew right away how lucky that I was. Even though I was all banged up and missing 3 limbs, I instantly knew how lucky I was to make it home in the first place. And that's been a lot of my driving force ever since.
God bless all you guys, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
God bless those warriors.
And their families and
Thank
everything
you.
in between, because that's a hard pill to swallow for anybody. And just hearing the story and the names, you know, they do exist, and they still exist. So I get that aspect.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
So then, yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. That's what I was going to ask. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I did wake up, I was back stateside. It was 7 weeks or so I was in a coma, almost 2 months, they said.
Wow.
And so that was, you know, pretty shocking in itself. In my mind, I was still right where I was at that minute, but obviously I wasn't. So I had to learn. I was on a lot of medication at the time as well. So they had to sort of bring me back to reality. You know, slowly but surely we got rid of the medication, and I was able to see and hear and understand clearly. And that's really when I started to, to rebuild myself. Although it was very tough because I was having surgery in the beginning every other day for the first 6 months. So, you know, it was very, very tough and very tiring. But I had to see the end game, which was years and years in the future. It wasn't going to be next week. So that was, it was very hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But with my family and friends, and of course my fellow warriors and stuff, we found a way.
So, and that again, that's admirable because again, people in that situation will take that and they'll turn on the bottle, or they'll turn on other kind of self medications.
They turn on themselves.
Or
really.
they turn on themselves.
Or they just kind of don't have that will, that strength to go. So no, that's great, man. I mean, let me ask you this, like. I've been down a few dark holes myself. I'll put it out there. When you're at that point and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, you literally are asking yourself, who am I? Because that question always comes up, right? No matter after any time of tragedy, who am I, and what the hell am I doing? When that happens, like, what was your drive? What was your pull? What did you pull from to really say, nah, you're not going to get me today? I almost said motherfucker, but you're not going to get me today, motherfucker. Like, it's pretty much the words that I want to use.
Right.
Yeah, and you should, because I've used it a lot, and a lot of other guys that were stuck at Walter Reed with me were the same way. But, you know, I was learning from the guys that were injured similar to me that were at Walter Reed already. I was listening to those guys. I was watching what they were doing. I was also listening to the guys and gals that came to visit me in the hospital. You know, in the beginning, it was a whole bunch of strangers to me. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these people ended up being Korean vets, Vietnam vets, you know, Gulf War vets, and everything in between, and would say, you can do this. And I took that to heart because it's guys that were older to me that have already been through this and sort of done that. And they would talk to me about, you know, it's okay to take this medication the doctor prescribes you, but don't abuse it, and don't take it if you don't need it, and all these kinds of things. And I really listened to them. And I said, you know, because they've seen much more than I have, and they've been around on the planet a lot longer than I have, so they have something to offer. So I listened to all that. I wrote a lot of that down and said, how am I going to use all this and use what I already know, and how am I going to turn this into a positive? And I've been trying to find ways ever since. That's for sure.
That's awesome, man.
So you don't live too far from Walter Reed, right?
No, that's the reason I stayed here, actually. So I live in Annapolis now. Walter Reed's about 40 minutes away in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside of D.C.
Yeah, I was doing some research a couple of days ago, and I came across the Gary Sinise Foundation. I found, you know, some of the things, a little background on yourself on that, and so I find that interesting that you got in with the Gary Sinise Foundation, among some other foundations. I'm sure another one I want to discuss as well that we've also had conversations with, and with their the people that they support. But the Gary Sinise Foundation, I always find that Gary Sinise himself, he's a real advocate for veterans. How was that experience working with the Gary Sinise Foundation?
Sure. So Gary Sinise Foundation and Gary himself has become a friend to me and my family. It's not uncommon to get a call or a text from him just to check in. These are all things that you don't sort of see coming, especially when you're having your dark days in the hospital. I mean, I was in the hospital the first time 15 straight months before they let me out, and I had to go back in many times after that. But I met Gary and another foundation called the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. The two together sort of combined and built me a completely wheelchair accessible home, and I could have it anywhere I wanted to. And eventually, when I made that decision, I said I got to stay somewhat close to Walter Reed because I do have to go back, and I'll be seeing the doctors again here on Monday, and likely have another surgery coming up as well. So I don't want to be too far away, but I want to be far enough away that I don't live here anymore, type thing.
No, and I appreciate that. So Walter Reed, just for people, just for people that may or may not know, but they're really dedicated to the veterans.
Yes, absolutely. And as I'm there as well, like I came from Afghanistan to Germany in Longstool, and then you take the flight over to Walter Reed here on the East Coast, and then you're there for hopefully about 2 years. That's the average, 2.5 years for an amputee.
Really?
I was there, unfortunately, for double that, for 5 years, just because I had so many internal complications and infections. So I got to I got close to those people there. A lot of the doctors and nurses are still friends of mine today. And yes, absolutely, they're committed to helping you get back on your feet, whether it's prosthetic feet or the feet you were born with when you were born. So they're very dedicated. As I was there, I was still active duty for those entire 5 years that I was there recovering until I officially retired in 2015.
Okay. You were in Walter Reed for 5 years.
Yeah. 5 years and 13 days, but I wasn't counting.
I mean, at that point,
fair enough.
My
No,
goodness.
that's actually mind blowing. Let me ask you this though: taking that path, being there for 5 years, 13 days. I mean, what have you learned about so-called? And I'll just take a deep dive into it. The Veterans Administration, the assistance, these nonprofit groups. Are there any really that you have the heart that you can recommend to somebody that's going through ailments, that maybe some advice for going for the Veterans Administration that's looking for assistance? Because, I mean, not to say you're a professional at this, but you have the insight, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how probably. And I mean, people need to know the what's the best, what's your recommendations on this, or if you have any at all.
So I would definitely say while you're at Walter Reed, and while I was there, like you said, for 5 years, I met a lot of nonprofits. The vast majority had good ideas, and all they wanted to do was help. So I already said the Gary Sinise Foundation and Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Right.
Admirable people, just incredible people, and their heart's in the right place. There's a lot of smaller ones too, like Luke Swing, the Yellow Ribbon Fund, Trucking for Troops. All these people that sort of show up, and you have no idea who they are in the beginning, and then you get to know them. They become friends and somewhat family to you. And being there for 5 years, it's after I left, they would even say to me, it's like sort of weird not seeing you there. And although they're very happy for me to be out of there, it was sort of weird because I was there such a long time. Mm-hmm. And it was weird to leave, actually. I mean, I was there for, like I said, 5 years, and that's even though that was still technically, I was active duty Army, I wasn't at Fort Bragg or deployed with my guys. So it was a different world. It was the longest I've ever been anywhere. You know what I mean? I wasn't at Fort Bragg that long. I wasn't in training that long. I wasn't living in the house I live in now that long. 5 years is a long time. So you meet a lot of people, and even now I'm on a board here in Annapolis that helps people at Walter Reed and veterans in the area called Warrior Events, and I sit on their board and try to help them and spread that word as well.
Oh, that's very good, man. So you're still doing good work. We appreciate that as well.
I'm certainly trying. I'll quickly mention as well, before we get too far. I just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in September on my prosthetics, and I raised just over $30,000 for 3 nonprofits that helped me drastically. You know what I mean? Especially in my later days at Walter Reed there. So I'll say their names as well.
Yeah,
one, Warrior Events, that I'm on their board now. One is Achilles International, and specifically the Freedom Team, and that's how I get. That's our avenue into hand cycling mainstream marathons now. So that's been great. And also the Semper Fi Fund / Americas Fund that helps any wounded, ill, and injured service member within the hospital system to get you back on your feet.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had conversations with Semper Fi Fund. We've actually had conversations with some of their people that they support, that have their own products and veteran-owned stuff. So Semper Fi Fund is definitely a great organization that we personally know, and again have had conversations not only with the organization but the people they've supported. So we definitely appreciate what they're doing for our veterans as well. And that was going to bring into my next segment with the Kilimanjaro. First off, I'm just going to tell you this. Today I said I worked out this morning, and I said I'm gonna just put it out there for Adam because he's motivating the shit out of me right now. Because,
he's bragging, man. He's bragging.
Because I was gonna have what they call the off day, right? The off day, right?
Yep.
But you just told me you spent 5 years at Walter Reed, and then 8 years later from this incident, You decide to climb
Yeah,
Kilimanjaro.
I couldn't even spell Kilimanjaro.
No, I can't spell it either, much less walk up it. So
brother's going
now
up
I
it.
have no off days the entire week. No, because
Well, he didn't tell you he did it backwards too.
Well, then now I'm out. Then
Hey,
I'm out.
how do you, Adam? How do you train for something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, how is that? Not how. I mean, I know you walk it on the treadmill, do the incline, put the pack on. I understand all that, but physically, how do you train for something like that with your prosthetics?
Well, it was difficult, and I had to learn a lot because the prosthetics aren't really made for that. And I'm on
Right.
my short prosthetic legs too, so I'm doing it without knees because both my I'm bilateral above the knee on my amputations on my legs.
Okay.
And so I'm training with these short legs, and I'm calling everybody that has done it before. I'm talking to anybody who's done any kind of climbing and any kind of prosthetic, and I'm just learning as I go. And then, people are sort of saying you should train for a year to a year and a half, and maybe a little bit longer for myself. But I said, how about we just do a really aggressive 6 months? And that's what I did. So I hired a personal trainer. I took all the information that everybody gave me and just said, how can we make this work? And I was still very nervous about it because I felt confident with the training and my capabilities, but I didn't know if the prosthetics were going to hold up. So I had to bring extra feet, extra hands, extra everything, because if something goes wrong up there,
Right.
I can't just go to Walter Reed anymore, right? So
That's true.
there was a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, and my good friend Tyler, who made the climb with me, and then my guide and my all the porters that were with us were just huge helps to me. Without them and my buddy Tyler, it wouldn't have happened.
Now, did that take your mind back into that warrior mindset?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's zero question about that.
Right. I figured it did. I mean, you said you wanted to do it in 6 months. I figured that, that we all miss that, right? No matter how long you've been out, no matter what your story is, I'm guessing we all, at some point, we feel nostalgic about what we did, what uniform we wore, and we want to be back there, right? So you're always, and me and Chris talk about it all the time, we're always trying to find the next great thing to be in that warrior, motivational, I need a value and a purpose mindset. You did that for yourself, and that's fantastic. I mean, you raised money for foundations. That's
right.
That's honorable, but really deep down, you did that climb itself, step by step, foot over foot by yourself, for yourself.
Yeah. So that's actually how it started. It started off as a personal challenge, and it was just an idea, right? And then people sort of got behind me, and I'd say before I even announced it to the public, I was probably about 3-4 months into conversations with people where they're like, Adam, you're going to motivate other people. I said, well, that's a great thing. And they're like, you could probably raise money here, so why don't you try that? And at first I said, all right, if I'm going to do this, let's do 5,000, right? And then I said maybe 10, or if I do it for 3 people, let's do it 15, so each gets 5. And then we got ambitious and said, let's make the bar $30,000. And I was just so thrilled that not only did I raise that money with other people, obviously we had a website and we're raising money, and a lot of it's just $5, $10. The biggest donation we had was $5,200, which was incredible. But ultimately they knew that I was doing this because these foundations helped me get to where I am. I'm proving that it can be done, and all the money that was raised. So I funded myself to do the climb myself, which was thousands of dollars. But I wanted all the money raised to go directly to these 3 nonprofits to say that you don't have to climb Kilimanjaro, you don't have to race in marathons, you don't have to do anything. But the option is there if you want it, and you should take advantage of the people that are trying to help you, So, yeah, I guess to sum it up, it started as a personal challenge because a Marine friend of mine from the Vietnam War era had done Kilimanjaro just a year before I did. And I saw his video, and I just started saying, I think I could do this, Bob. And, it went from there.
He was the gentleman that did it for his daughter. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that story as well. That's fascinating. He was also 68 years old, something of that nature.
67 or 68, something like that. Yeah.
Man, that's another warrior. That's another
I know,
one
man.
of God's
Isn't that
warrior.
mindset just
No,
amazing?
it's fantastic to keep that mindset from Vietnam on.
Oh,
Probably,
man.
I mean, that's probably in his DNA, right? I mean, you just
You don't turn
can't,
that off.
No, you can't turn that
Yeah.
off.
He's an older 0311, but he's
he's a
still a
salt
warrior
dog.
at heart, 100%.
All right, that good old salt dog. All right, well, that makes 2 of us. I appreciate that.
There you go.
Yes, sir. No, tell him hoorah for me.
Will do, absolutely.
So I just want to get a visual here, because I don't have the audacity to pretend I'm going to go to Kilimanjaro tomorrow. No, I don't. But I want the visual here, and I want our listeners who may be getting ready to motivate themselves to do something like that, or like, wow, I want to do something like that. What's that visual like, standing at the bottom of that thing, looking up at him and saying, "I got you. I'm coming." What's that visual like?
It's so this is just like you were saying before, sort of like the warrior thought process. It's like I want to conquer you. You're not going to conquer me. And so it's 19,341 feet to reach the peak of Aruhu Peak. Many people take that for granted because you don't need oxygen, or you shouldn't need oxygen, I should say. But people try to do it too fast, and they start getting pulled off the mountain because they can't breathe. So the whole goal there is to go very, very slow. And I actually thought I was going too slow day one, and I sort of apologized to my guide and all the porters with us. And they're like, "Adam, this is exactly how fast you should go." So that worked out for me, right? And it was just encouraging to have them around me. They do this for a living. I mean, my guide had climbed this mountain over 100 times now in the last 6 or 7 years. So he's well versed in the mountain. He knows where things are going to work and where things could be a problem and where I shouldn't walk and these kinds of things. But there was many times where we sat, especially at the end of the day when you're having something to eat and you're about to, rack out, where I said to myself, Adam, how bad do you want this? I mean, I could see the peak of the mountain. It just doesn't feel like it as you're walking, or even when I had to sit in a wheelchair at times, it doesnn't feel like you're getting any closer. But you are, but it doesn't feel like you are. And then I had to ask myself, how bad do you want this? And the answer was, I really want it. I want to be at the top. I want to hit that sign with my my only good hand. And I want to prove that it can be done. I wanted to prove that to myself. It wasn't really for everybody else at the time, but it turned out to be that way. I have inspired other people, and that's just a great benefit that came out of this.
Yeah. How long did it? I mean, typically, how long is it supposed to take an individual to do this? And then how long did it take you to do it?
You could do it. I mean, there's been guys that have done it. I mean, you could probably do this in a day and a half, really, if you were sprinting, but you can't do that.
Right.
The average is about 4 to 5. Our goal was 6 days total to get to the peak and then come off, which is pretty much the average, and that's what we did. Some people do it a little bit longer. They do up to 10 days if they want to, just take, enjoy the scenery and stuff like that. But our goal was 6 days. We reached the summit on the 5th day and got off the mountain on the 6th day.
That's outstanding.
It took you 5 days to get up and 1 day to get down? Did you jump?
Yeah, you can leave the mountain as fast as you want to because the airs get in your favor when you're going down. But going up, you have to be very careful.
I got you.
Right.
He paratrooped right off.
Yeah.
Hey,
listen, I wish I could at that time because when you're at the top, it's like a joyous, incredible moment. You can't even really put into words. And then you're only up there for 20 minutes or less before you start to get a little bit loopy, right?
Okay.
And then you got to realize that you got to get off this mountain now.
Have you guys ever seen these guys that do the wingsuits?
Yes.
That's wild, man. That's
yep.
I don't even. Some of them don't even wear like safety chutes. No, they wear helmets. They don't wear safety chutes. They will literally glide to a landing.
Yeah,
and I think that's crazy. I haven't done that yet.
That's just crazy, man.
So then, let me ask you this, Adam. So then, how? So we're now you've conquered the mountain, right? You've conquered the mountain, and now you set your sights on your new endeavors, which is now stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
How does that come to be about? And I mean, obviously you went to the schooling for 6 weeks and you did all that, but how was the first gig and subsequent gigs and how does that how are you what's your comedy like?
Sure. So the whole comedy thing came about, when I was a kid, and I was just one of those guys who was sort of making wisecracks, and my grandma, when I was 7, 8 years old, would always say, "You need to be on the stage," type thing. Like a lot of people have those moments, right? Mm-hmm. But it sort of goes back to when I was injured, and then I coded 6 times after. I mean, so I by any stretch of the imagination, I should be dead, and I don't take that for granted at all. So as a 34-year-old man, I'm looking at life at a totally different viewpoint. Really, it's like if you want to do something and you really want to, you can't just say you want to do something and then not put your really effort into it. You have to put a lot of effort into climbing a mountain. You have to put a lot of effort into doing comedy or acting or whatever it is you want to do. But I sort of had a gun ho that I wanted to get on stage and at least give it a shot. I could have crashed and burned the very first day, and that might have been it. Who knows? But with the schooling from Armed Services Arts Partnership and doing 6 weeks of that with professional comedians and learning how I could put my jokes that I already had written sort of in a better format to really make it work. And sometimes it's just one word in a sentence that's going to make it or break it. So I'm thankful for going to that school. And to graduate from the school, you have to go to the DC Improv and do a 5-minute set and it could go either way, right? So
Right.
you have to brace yourself for that. I'm happy to say I didn't get booed off. I actually got a lot of laughs and a lot of applause, which was great, and it gave me more strength to keep going. So I've been to the Improv twice now. I've done one gala. I have my next set is next Saturday, so February 16th at the Fasano Italian Restaurant in Bethesda, Maryland. If anybody in the area wants to come check it out.
Very nice.
I got I think 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes to open up for the headliner, but I'll take anything that anybody wants to get or give me, So
Yeah.
if I can get on stage and do anything, I'll take it and I'll try to run with it.
Is there aspirations down the line of maybe something else, like going out on talk shows or starting your own do touring? Like, are you just kind of like staying in this niche right now where you want to be local and you want to kind of work your craft, or are you really trying to aspire quickly to grow?
Well, yes, I would love to grow in this field. In comedy is great. I'm starting actually this weekend. I'm starting my improv classes, and hopefully I'll get picked up for an 8-week class of that as well. So hopefully it will turn into comedy/acting. I've tried to. I went out for a couple of auditions already. I've gotten fairly close, but haven't hit anything yet.
Okay.
But I do hope to turn it into something. And this is, something that's been in my life that I've wanted to do for a long time. But like I said before, I can't just sit on the couch and say I want to do it. I have to make it happen. So I'll take the 3 minutes in Bethesda next weekend. And, maybe down the line. I'm not saying it has to be next month. It could be a year. It could be 5. It could be 10 or 20. Who knows? Right. But if I can make it to the big stage, and I think, guys know what I'm talking about now. I mean, I've been really pushing to get on the Oscar stage for this year since they don't have a host. And I have a website going if anybody's listening wants to check it out.
Well, they do have
AdamForTheOscars.com.
They do have a host, don't they? Isn't it Alicia Keys now?
No, she's
I think they got confused between Adam and Alicia.
She's the Grammys now.
They were like, we'll just go with this one.
I wish I could say she's a cousin of mine, and I had an in with that, but she's not. I'm really trying for the Oscars.
That's awesome.
Since they don't have a host. I know just yesterday they announced that they're not going to have a proper host, but they're going to have a whole bunch of presenters / fillers for time and stuff. So if they want me to fill some time or present an award, I'm open for anything, and I'll pay to get myself there, and I have a place to stay already. So yeah, sign me up, man. Sign my petition if you guys can. AdamForTheOscars.com.
I like that.
And it's also a hashtag too, right? Hashtag Adam for the Oscars.
Correct.
Yeah, so we'll get that out.
That just sort of happened, by accident. The comedy was going so well, and I just done my third set. It was only like 5 or 6 days after my third set when Mr. Hart wasn't going to host anymore. And I said,
he said Mr. Hart.
That's like saying bless his heart.
No, well, I bet you he knows him personally.
I don't know him personally at all. He's a great comedian, but if he decided he wasn't going to host for whatever the reasons were, I said, hey, listen, I'll jump in. I'm a short comic too, so let me fill that gap.
But hold on, that's not fair, Adam. You're doing that by choice. He said he has his short legs on.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
He said he had
I want to be at his level.
There you go, eye to eye with Kevin Hart.
I could probably even wear his suit at this point.
You get to choose. Just curiosity, what do they do for your legs anyway? They find a center, and they or do you actually get to choose? I want to be 6 foot. I want to be 6'1". I want to be 5'8". Or shit, I'll be 4'2".
Technically, you could pick as a bilateral above the knee amputee. You could. I'm on the shorties still right now, just because I trained on those for a year for Kilimanjaro.
Gotcha.
And I'm really good at them. I just started going back to welterweight this week to get back on my tall legs. Formerly I was 6'3", but the higher you go on prosthetics with less limb that you have, the harder it gets.
Yeah, you got to find your center on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been back to 6 foot, which is pretty comfortable for me. That's as high as I care to go. It's just a lot tougher for me. I mean, I got a lot of different things when it comes to skin and skin conditions, things like that. So we're working on new things to try to get me back to, up to 6 foot. But if I stay at, I think it's 4'11" with my shorties now, almost 5 foot. If I stay there, that's okay too, because like I said before, I'm just happy to be alive. So I don't need to walk and run every single day. If I could do it for comedy and for acting, and when I go out to a restaurant with whoever, that's a good thing for me.
Right. Hey, you're a growing boy,
Well,
I'm trying to give him some lines here, man. I'm trying to give him some
I'm drinking a lot of milk. I'm trying to get taller. I want to be like a real boy someday. But
there you go. I know he's got it in him. He's doing really well today, man. He's not letting the comedy out, and I want it out of him. I want the sarcasm. I want the jokes. I need it.
I use them a lot, so let me sprinkle that in as we go here.
All right. It's like it comes out, it's all dog shit. He's like, let me sprinkle that in.
let me
Here's
sprinkle
a
that
bunch
on
of
top
dog
of
shit
it.
for you. Here's a bunch of dog shit.
You put
for
that
you.
on your lettuce.
Well, I must say, if we're gonna stay on that level, I mean, like I say, being at 4'11", or even if I'm on a wheelchair when I go out in town,
Right.
meeting women at that height is not a bad thing, you know. So
Maybe not for
Just
your
put
eyes.
that in
Maybe
your
not.
mind.
Maybe not for your eyes, but for your nose, right?
for everything, man, I'm telling you.
That's good work. So if somebody was looking for you as far as your comedy bits and stuff, is there a specific website they can go to for any of your upcoming events or shows, or I mean, is that out there yet, or is that still something we're working on?
Yeah, I don't have a proper website for myself for now, other than the Oscar ones for the Oscar push. But right now, the easiest way to get a hold of me would be either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Yeah.
I think you should tell them when you say, "Hey, how do we find you?" I think you should say you should go to www.pornhub.com, and I'm right there on the front page. See, I'm gonna give you some lines here, Adam. You can write this down.
All right.
He's like, they're garbage, Scott. I'm not gonna write them down.
I hope if anybody goes to Pornhub, I hope you never see me there. That's for sure.
What is this One Step Forward initiative? I came across at Adam Keys One Step Forward. What's that initiative?
Sure, that's my Facebook page,
Okay.
and I just said Adam Keys is obviously my name, and I just put in quotations "one step forward" because early on in the hospital, like I told you, those Korean vets and the Vietnam vets would just tell me, take this one step at a time, one step forward, you'll get it, and that just stuck with me. So I use that sort of as my, I guess you could say, motto, and I just tell everybody that, especially if you go to the page, it's whatever your fight may be, you know, because everyone has their own fight. Just keep fighting. Don't ever stop fighting, because as soon as you give up on yourself, it's game over.
Right.
Well, that's a great.
In my opinion.
Well, that's a great message. That's a great message for our listeners too, because a lot of times, and I think they can take that on all walks of life. You know, a lot of we've hit on transition in military folks trying to get, you know, make the switch from, you know, doing something that was relevant in the armed forces, and feeling like they have a purpose, to coming out, and now they're sitting in an interview in corporate America. They get, for lack of better words, they get roped and doped into a job that when they show up, it's not as advertised, and then they don't find a sense of purpose. So then they start giving up. And we found through a lot of research and just other resources that we've talked to on this show, that, you know, it's about 3 or 4 jobs, and I say jobs very, very, like that's what it is. It's a job. Before that veteran says, you know what, I have to stick this out because I have a family I got to take care of. But they're not satisfied. A lot of times that's what happens. So I think what you just said there would resonate not only for Wounded Warrior, but also for those that mentally just can't switch gears and get in line, so to speak, with the corporate world. And so I think that's a fantastic motto or mentality to have, even transitioning out.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and thank you very much for saying that. I do agree, and that's part of my push when it came to Kilimanjaro, and for my Oscar bid as well, is because not only for veterans, and like you said, not only because, or you don't have to be an amputee or whatever your injury may be. You know what I mean? It could be one of these invisible things. But I try to put it out there just to say to everybody that just don't give up. I mean, there's always a chance that you can make this work, right? And I do think that somebody as visible as me, being on a stage like the Oscars or climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and I'll have all the TV time that I did after that, should at least, and I know it already has because people have reached out to me, inspired their kid or a mother of a kid or a father of a kid or a grandparent that has somebody in the hospital that's not doing well. Sometimes they need somebody to look at. And I'm not saying it has to be me, but I just know that after I just went through everything I went through, people are emailing me or you know, message me on Facebook saying, you helped me get over this, or you helped me push this to get a little bit better. And you know, I just take a lot of pride out of that, because, you know, as we were just saying before, it sort of is, it's sort of lost on you when you get out of the service. You're not with your team, your platoon, your company, and beyond. You know, right now, the Kilimanjaro thing was essentially me, right? Mm-hmm. The comedy thing is definitely me. I mean, I went to comedy school. I had all this help to do it, but it's you and the audience. But it's only you on the stage, so you have to really want that as well. And it's very nerve wracking. And you know, I just try to push myself a little bit further than maybe I would have prior to injury. because you may only get one chance, and I know that I have that one chance to inspire another person. So, that's just that's how I've been living my life for the last 8 years.
That's outstanding. No, that's true.
Also, I want to point out real quick, too, because I heard you say the words wounded warrior. I try to steer away from that, and I have a good friend who looks a lot like me. He's actually a quadruple amputee who has a foundation called the Travis Mills Foundation. You may have heard of him. He coined this new phrase called recalibrated warriors, and I try to run with that because people get sort of stuck on the wounded warrior thing, and they think a lot of time of amputees only, and that's simply not the case, because we know that there's all kinds of different injuries of being shot or all this crazy PTS that's out there and everything like that. He's coined the phrase recalibrated warrior. I'm just running with it because I think it's a better way to say it, man. I'm not wounded anymore, right? I was wounded. I'm better now.
That's actually fantastic.
That's actually it's a good point. I think we should definitely push that out and spread that word. I think, what's his name again? Travis
Mills. Yeah, you can check him up online for sure. He's all over the place.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely worth putting out. I think that's a good kind of break the stigma, right? Isn't that the verbiage we want to use? To kind of break the stigma that goes along with everything. Because once you are better, you want to stay better, and it can always come back and with some stuff, and you have ailments all the time you're dealing with, but you're never going to be as bad as you were, right? Hopefully.
Exactly, and that's the goal, right? You know what I mean? So we're trying. I'm doing my best. That's for sure.
So Adam, before we let you go today, get back to your real life and doing all the good services that you do, I'm gonna call you out here online and ask you a question. Sure. What was your rifle qual, brother?
Well, I was.
The plot thickens.
Yeah, I wasn't expert. I think it's called sharpshooter in the Army. I think so. I was.
Do you remember your number out of 40? What was it?
32.
All right, I'll take that. If you said 22, I'd have to elbow drop this whole podcast. And
I don't even think 22 would qualify.
I don't know. I think 24 is the lowest you can get.
Okay.
Which is
amazing. I was 32, so I was right in the middle there.
That's good, man. That's perfect. Yeah. I was just curious on that. Those pop-up ranges are no joke, man. So I'll tell you a quick story. And I told Chris this, and I'll admit it. You'll never be as bad as this. So. I was in the Marine Corps until 2006, got out. 2010, I joined the Army National Guard, went in as 11 Bravo, right? So I got downrange. Got downrange. I laid down, and I'm looking down. Now in the Marine Corps, you shoot. What is it? 600 yards, 800 yards, whatever it is. You're shooting at 800 yards downrange, right? So you're starting off. So I'm looking down, and they gave me an ACOG, right? So I never had an ACOG before. Long story short. In the Marine Corps, we always had iron sights.
Correct.
So, and I still couldn't shoot for shit. But now you're giving me a scope. So now I'm looking through the scope, and I'm looking downrange. I'm looking past this 300-yard target, beyond into the trees, looking for anything to move, anything to pop up, a dog target, whatever. I get off the line. This is a true story. I have 3 full magazines. I walk down, and the guy's like, oh, at least, I guess nobody was on lane 11. Because there's a 0. When my first time up, I shot a 0. No shots. And they literally looked at me and go, did you shoot? And I said, no, nothing. I didn't see any targets. They're like, oh, the lane must be broken then. Nope, the lane's not broken. You're just a dumbass because you didn't see the green guys pop up. And I'm like, well, no, I kind of didn't know. They were just like, here's 3 magazines. Go ahead and go shoot the targets. So you'll never shoot a 0, brother, like I did. I'll always admit that. I got up to a 35. That was my highest I ever got up to.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, you definitely don't want to be less than 22, like you said. I mean, I don't even think you qualify. And it must have been tougher for you too, coming from the Marine Corps, going to the Guard, and not shooting something that day. That must have been. I'm sure you heard about that from your Army buddies there.
Oh yeah, man, that was a rough day for me. I got ragged on all day long. So I was supposed to be somebody, right? Every Marine's a rifleman. Not this one. Not this guy. Not that day.
At least not that day. That's right. At least not that day.
I admit my faults, brother. But we appreciate it, man. No, you're an awesome dude. I admire what you're doing and what you've done and what you've been through and how you're doing it. And I know the struggle's real. And we appreciate you greatly.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. And, I'll come back anytime if you want to chat.
Always, brother. Keep us up to date on what you need. If you need anything from us here at Head to Head, reach out to us. Let us know how we could be assistance to you, your calls. And of course, if you have any of your colleagues or anybody that's have any questions for us or want to share their stories, invite them to come on. We'll be glad to have them and share them with our audience. And we're going to push out this hashtag Adam for the Oscars here. We're going to push that real heavy starting today and moving forward.
Reconditioned Warrior, was it? Reconditioned Warrior?
Reconditioned Warrior.
Recalibrated.
Recalibrated.
I like
Let's
that.
write
Yeah,
that down.
you got it.
Write that down, because I'll mess that up. I'm a Pollock as they
And that,
come.
like I said, that credit goes to Travis Mills. He coined that phrase. I'm just using it.
I know,
He's a good friend of
we're
mine.
gonna steal that, Travis. Sorry, brother. We're just gonna. I'm just kidding.
He
Well,
won't mind. He won't mind.
We know we got to make that a hashtag for him. Is what we got to do.
Yeah, he would like that.
Start
Awesome.
pushing that out.
Yeah, so we're gonna push this out, man. We're gonna try to get you to the Oscars one way or the other. Hopefully, our listeners will tune in and they'll reach out, sign the petition for you, get you out there. And like I said, sir, let us know how we can be of assistance to you and your causes, because we really are grateful and appreciative for you and people like you that have the mentality to never quit and keep moving on and help people that are going through some things in their life that maybe without you guys' help, they would, for lack of better words, fold as opposed to standing up. So we appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate you guys as well, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. So you take care of yourself. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, brother.
So long.
So
Wow, what a motivating story, man. That is phenomenal.
That's crazy.
That is just it's heart-wrenching and motivating. It really is, man. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, that is like something that he did it. Like, he went through the worst of life, and now he's doing more. He's doing helping others and doing more for himself. So he's reborn, a new man.
I really like this recalibrated warrior, brother.
Yeah.
That's motivated.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that really just speaks volumes to kind of the mindset we had. Wounded warrior, meaning that's it. They're wounded and they're no good, right? This says, yeah, we were hurt, but guess what, motherfuckers? We're still standing. I really like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
So kudos to Travis Mills for bringing that up. Kudos for Adam Keys to continue to push that, and just overall kudos to Mr. Adam Keys for showing up to the fight more than once.
Right.
Because some of us don't even show up to the fight. This man's showing up to the fight time and time again,
Yep.
man. That's impressive. So.
He's a strong man.
But yeah, if we can ask all of our listeners to reach out, you can find Adam Keys on Facebook at Adam Keys One Step Forward. He's also on Twitter. You can find him there as well. We'd love to get him over to the Oscars. I think it would be a good representation, not only of recalibrated warriors, but also military and veterans alike, to have somebody like him, local kid, growing up, actually not even from this country originally, coming over here, wanting to serve this country, served in the Army, served us proudly and admirably. Let's get him to the Oscars, man. Let's make that happen for him. And then I want to give a shout out, man, to the Gary Sinise Foundation, Semper Fi Fund, and everybody else that helped him on his journey. I think that's very impressive that they stepped up to the plate and helped this man, and they continue to help him. And also, I mean, as much as we go against the VA and stuff here, not against, but we have questions and concerns about them. You got to give it up to Walter Reed, man. Apparently, they're doing some really good things for people like Adam out there. So much credit to those doctors and nurses and healthcare providers out at Walter Reed, man. That's great to hear them stories that they're taking care of our men and women.
Absolutely.
So let's rock and roll, man. Let's leave this go, man. This is Chris.
And I'm Scott.
This is Head to Head. You guys stay safe.